The Newfoundland Symphony Youth Orchestra, conducted by Peter Gardner, playing Aaron Copland's Outdoor Overture. That performance was from an educational concert given by the NSYO at O'Donnell High School in Mount Pearl last May. Peter Gardner is not only the conductor, but the founding director of the Newfoundland Symphony Youth Orchestra. Peter, I have a feeling that apart from your obvious role with the orchestra as conductor in public performance, you're a lot more involved than that. Could you tell us something about your role with the orchestra?
Well, it's not only the, I have to plan the season, and from season to season, but I also have in my mind what I would want to do with the youth orchestra over successive seasons. So I look in the long term, what I want to teach the kids. Also, I'm involved in assisting in, I suppose, fundraising, the general day-to-day workings of the orchestra, keeping it together, and dreaming up new creative projects and lunatic ideas that we might get into.
You were actually the guy who got this orchestra started.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I've always been involved in youth orchestras. I grew up with youth orchestras, regional ones, local ones, school ones, national ones. I played in national orchestras. Always found them tremendously exciting things to be a part of. Not just from the point of view of the music, but you met skilled people who could help you. You met friends. There was this whole social infrastructure that built out of an orchestra. And particularly, most people involved in classical music, and particularly I was a male violinist, even in England when I grew up, that wasn't really the sort of thing you did. You know, you're a real weirdo. And yet, in a youth orchestra, you found 80 other weirdos. It was marvelous. And I just felt that the city needed one. We have a tremendous pool of young, talented players who play orchestral instruments. And orchestral instruments, other than piano, are really gregarious instruments. I mean, violins don't really sound very well alone. And they sound much better when you put a whole bunch of them together, and so do all the other instruments, that I thought it would be just wonderful if we could start that same thing here.
Now, the young people in this orchestra, where do they come from?
Well, the majority of them come from St. John's, and it started off really as a metropolitan orchestra, and that's the way it probably will be. However, where possible, we've tried to incorporate skilled musicians from further afield. We have a young lady who comes from Upper Gullies regularly to all rehearsals. We meet on a Sunday and for a short rehearsal on a Thursday. We've had one young lady in the violins who's come from Salmon Cove for, I think it's 3 or 4 years. Never missed a Sunday rehearsal, ever, in all that time, winter or not. We have 2 now who come down from Springdale every other week, thanks to somebody who drives them, and a girl who's just started coming from Shoal Harbour. So
they obviously must enjoy it.
Oh yes, and once they get involved, they obviously restrictions. They can't come every week from Springdale, but they really enjoy it, and they come as often as they can, and we're just pleased to try and fit them in and extend that service to them also.
Well, I guess not everybody who wants to be in the orchestra gets in.
No, we audition every 2 years. And the major audition is every 2 years, and there's a lot of competition for flutes, clarinets. Intervening years, we fill up the empty spaces. So that's the main background for auditioning. But there is competition. Okay,
well, let's hear some more music. The Newfoundland Symphony Youth Orchestra will now play the first and second movements of the MIRAMICHI Ballad, an orchestral suite by Kelsey Jones.
Very good.
Everybody's got a Christmas song to sing. Everybody's got a Christmas song to sing.
Everybody's got a Christmas
A
song.
song of starry nights, twinkling lights, holiday fun in the air. Season's greetings from Irving people everywhere.
This time of year is special. It's time for families and friends to get together. So all of us at Irving Oil would like to wish you and your family a safe and joyous holiday season.
Everybody's got a Christmas song to sing. Everybody's got a Christmas song to sing.
Everybody's got a Christmas
A
song.
song of family times, happy times, lots of love to share.
Lots of love to share.
Season's greetings from Irving people everywhere.
Season's greetings
Season's greetings.
from Irving people.
Mom, tell me about the very first Christmas.
Well, let's see. A long time ago, far away in a stable in Bethlehem, the Christ child was born. And over the stable shone the brightest of stars. It could be seen by all. The little babe had many visitors. As everyone rejoiced, it was the holiest of nights.
Keep Christ in Christmas.
Happy birthday, baby Jesus.
When friends don't stop friends from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking and driving can kill a friendship.
Peter, of course, the major reason for being involved in an orchestra or youth orchestra, I guess, is for the education it provides, but you can also have a lot of fun being in a youth orchestra as well, and I think with the Toy Symphony that we're about to see, that's an example of the type of fun you can have. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, I think in programming you try to make a mixture of very serious and very light, and particularly for a young person's concert in school, you want a moment where they can all let their hair down and not be restricted. And I decided to do the Toy Symphony, and it uses strings plus a few tiny little toys which are nightingale and quail. They're about this big and they make very interesting sounds, toy trumpet, toy drum. And I decided I'd like some of my players to play the toys. And some of the players are from O'Donnell High, and that was the purpose of going to O'Donnell High, to see peers play, four peers. But when I approached them, they were not about to get involved in this thing in front of their friends. They said, "Oh no, this is just a bit too heavy. You know, this is too foolish." But I made a deal with them.
They were afraid they were going to be laughing.
Oh, definitely. They were going. Oh, absolutely. But they made a deal, and if I got their music teacher to stand up at the last moment with them, then they'd go along with it. Well, I was able to get their music teacher to agree at the last moment, and they had to follow through. And we have these strapping folks up there with their little tiny trumpets and making interesting noises.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the Toy Symphony now. Here's the Newfoundland Symphony Youth Orchestra.
There happen to be 3 students of O'Donnell High here, so I'm going to embarrass the hell out of them and bring them up front. Good. Now, where's Mr. Smith? He's going to come and play too, but he's never played it. I told them they'd be heroes. Now, we've got to give these folks some little instruments. I think they're great. Now, this is a very nice little toy. And our friend down there is going to play with this. He's going to be a nightingale. I've fixed it forever for him. Good. Now, Kevin is the great drummer, so I have a great drum for Kevin. No biscuits, I've eaten them. And Mr. Smith, I know that he's a saxophone player. I can't get a saxophone, but I can get a trumpet. You have to have all 3 keys down. All 3 keys.
the trio also?
Yeah.
All repeats maybe?
Now, this is a little symphony. This is a legitimate symphony written by Joseph Haydn, the great symphony writer, and he wrote a symphony for toys. And it really is real printed music. Didn't concoct it. And it's for strings and these folk. Okay? And we're going to play a minuet and trio. And in that case, we play a minuet, we then play the trio, and then we go back and we play the minuet again. And for all the orchestra, we're going to do no repeats, straight through minuet, straight through trio. It's easy for these folk to follow then. They won't get lost. Take a bow. Stand with you as you go. Come on. Give it a punch.
Nature gives to every time and season beauties of its own. And during the Christmas season, while outside the cool, crisp air thrills to the sound of carolers, inside the warmth of the hearth is a true reflection of the warm friendship we feel. While eager young imaginations await that one extra special surprise again this year, it's in the giving that we find the real gift of the season. The management and staff at Deluxe Dry Cleaners thank you for your patronage and look forward to offering you the same quality service in 1987.
Your mission, Paul, is to get these pictures developed, but you must remember to ask for color watch.
Color watch, 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 color watch.
For great film developing, make sure your dealer uses only Kodak products. Just remember to ask for Color Watch. The Kodak Color Watch system helps make great developing possible.
So does Teutons, the only Newfoundland-based color watch developer. Teutons, serving you for over 80 Christmases.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
Is it true that a Big Mac attack starts with a craving for 2 all-beef patties?
Oh, boy, does it.
Followed by a tendency to repeat yourself?
Oh, boy, does it.
And a total loss of concentration?
What's that?
A total loss of concentration.
What's that?
An inability to speak clearly.
Now we're going to at that.
An urge to share? What about the Coke?
A star-studded spectacular. The world's finest professional skating stars at their best for this annual event. Join Ted Reynolds and Taller Cranston for a dazzling 90-minute CBC sports special. The World Professional Figure Skating Championships. Best on the Box, tonight on CBC Television. From the Stratford Festival. Rogers and Hart's Broadway smash, The Boys from Syracuse. Best on the Box, Sunday.
Peter, obviously funding is important. You can't run the orchestra without money. Where do you get your funding?
Well, the members have a registration fee, which is not large. The parents raise a good deal of it through lotteries and things like that. We also get ticket money from concerts that we do. and we also try and get sponsors wherever we can. And in fact, this O'Donnell High School concert was sponsored by Newfoundland Telephone. It's been very good to us. So that covers most of our funding needs.
This was a high school concert. You not only play in high schools, you perform elsewhere, I take it.
Yeah, we do our regular concerts in the Arts Centre. We play at Christmas time and again in April, and those are major symphonic concerts. We like to play outside the town if we can. We've made one tour of Newfoundland and Labrador. We'd like to do another one later this year. We've played outside the province. We've been twice to the Canadian Festival of Youth Orchestras in Banff. We've done an exchange with the Montreal Youth Orchestra and played in Montreal. Depends on money, but we're looking at maybe the possibilities of going to Europe or Eastern Canadian tour. Those touring is very important because the orchestra gets honed on a tour, it gets better on a tour, it pulls closer together, and the kids thoroughly enjoy it. And there's also an educational aspect there again.
Now, you mentioned Banff. The orchestras that perform at Banff, where do they come from? Just Canada or
only Canadian? Yeah, only Canadian, and they're selected by jury, and 7 get chosen to go, and you spend 10 days with an international group of teachers and conductors. It's a very, very fine program, one of the best in the world. We've been invited twice, and we will keep on applying, and it doesn't always follow we'll go, but I have no doubt we'll go again.
So the fact that you were invited says something for the caliber of this orchestra.
Oh, absolutely. You must play well. You must be able to fiscally deliver by turning up. You've got to be prepared, you've got to be ready, and from all accounts that I've heard, they generally regard Newfoundland Orchestra as one of the strongest attenders at the Banff Festival.
If a young person, say somebody who plays the clarinet, were to come to you and say, why should I get involved with this orchestra, what would you say?
Well, first of all, it's a lot of fun, and it's a good idea. Secondly, I would say, well, I think that's very pertinent because all the orchestral instruments we employ really work better when they're working with others. They're gregarious instruments, not like piano, which are very much built to be alone. Violins sound much better as a bunch. It's much more fun.
Are you looking for players right now, by the way?
Oh, yes. Even now, I'm looking for them. French horns. Anybody out there plays a French horn? Violas, double bass. We will audition anybody at any time, but particularly those instruments.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. I've been talking with Peter Gardner, conductor and founding director of the Newfoundland Symphony Youth Orchestra. The orchestra will conclude this program with some excerpts from Bill Conti's score to the film Rocky. I'm Karl Wells. Thank you and good night.